Welcome to part 2 of this Gravity Sketch tutorial. I hope you enjoy the rest of this series.
Looks like there's a surface cuts back to a triangle like that, and then we can do something in there. It's okay for now. I think you just want to spend some time getting things roughed in, and then you can go back and really refine them. But it's nice to kind of establish this stuff a little early on. I think that might do that. But you can really just spend a lot of time getting it perfect. Depends on how you like to work. I tend to do that, but just for the sake of time, I think I'm going to try and do this one a little quicker. And then there's probably looks like some break or something coming through like that. That's not too bad. And we'll probably just add a little thickness to the edge of that, as well as this one here. This definitely has way more of a wedge feeling to it, so I think I'm gonna see if I can pull that out like that. Yeah, maybe that sticks out a little more than the wheel. Or since I've got the shape I want, I'm gonna push it into where I think it should be. And then modify this a little bit more, as well as that. That's not bad. Okay. It's looking pretty good so far, and then this will just be a kind of drafted back. And that'll probably come out like that. Not bad. I think this has a little more angle to that corner, but it's okay. I'll bump some of these lines up, make them a little bolder so they stand out a little bit more. But that's not looking too bad. It's a little tilted up, so I think we can come down. Some of that might come down just a hair. Same with that. Maybe everything. Just need a little touch, a little move. Oops. Again, that's really nice, just being able to kind of push and pull the curves while you're building the volumes. This has a little more positive to it. Cool. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then maybe there's a line that comes off of here that does something. I'm just going to simplify it a bit and do something like that. I think that should come to about there. So everything can kind of converge from this belt line. I think that'll be okay. And I'm thinking I'm going to do a nice round canopy, so this is just kind of establish maybe the widest point of it. And it could probably come down behind that into like a cowl there. That's not too bad. Actually, everything seems a little bowed. I think that was this line here that started that. Let's make these a little bolder as well. If you're doing a bunch of these at the same time, just be careful. Sometimes they do move on you. Oops. So it's nice to just sight down them and see how they're doing. It's not too bad like that. I think this needs to come down just a hair. These can come out, make it a little bit wider. Okay, that's not too bad for that. Add a little thickness to those visually. This will probably do the same thing. So I'm going to copy and paste that and then just scale it a little and just stick it there like that. Cool. That's not too bad. I'll have to come up with something for this grill. I don't know. Maybe it's got mustache or something. We'll leave that alone for now and get the rest of the car in there. These can actually probably come out just a hair more. We'll just start editing these points a little. Maybe that's back. I'm just gonna do a section over the front wheel here, so I'll just kind of eyeball where I think it's gonna be. I think that's pretty centered there, just to establish what I want that section to do. So I'll just come in and start putting in some curves, manipulating some of the points. That'll be a break. And then this will be a nice sharp point. That'll be the top of the wheel arch, and that's pretty good. Not quite centered, but that's all right. Yeah, actually that whole front end is a little too high. You can see just from this point in side view that should be the top of the headlight there. So I think that's okay. We can just move the headlight. And this, not too bad. I think all this can come down. And this point feels a little high through there. That's always good to look in the cross view just to see where some of that stuff is. That might be okay like that. And this curve isn't S-ing too much. If it was like that, you'd get a bit of an S, but I think out there is pretty good. Then we can touch that down. And that, I think that actually helped quite a bit. That area, I'm just going to get rid of that curve. It's pretty good. It's feeling wide and low, which is what you want. Might be a hair wide, depending how that cabin comes out. It might feel a little small. So I might touch that up just a hair. And these feel a little too forward, these points here. I'm just going to come down with that. Once I get surfaces in, I'll be able to tell that a little more. I don't really need those there either. Yeah, this still feels a bit high. Maybe that angle. I think that's what it was, is that angle there. And I can pull that there. That's a little better. Then I'll just come in and edit this section a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm just gonna scale this up. In my viewport, it's gonna be about, try and get it 1-to-1 there, so I can get a better sense of the volume of it. It's not too bad. Yeah, the canopy is definitely gonna feel a smidge small. but that's okay. I think it's because there's nothing in the rear to kind of help that. Although that point definitely feels a lot higher than the rear. So it's okay. That's where it's going to start to S, is on this view there. That's pretty good. And I don't actually have this line in because that's going to establish the, whatever that line's going to come up. I think I'll have to do something that comes up, oops, over the fender like that, just to give it that kind of wedge feeling. This is actually getting a little negative. And this should be a little higher, I think. Help pull some of that weight to the rear. That might come out a hair more. Oops. Just so we can get some curve around the back. Not too bad. I think that, yeah, that needs to tilt over. I'm just trying to figure out how much tumble home there's going to be and how round that's going to be. I think if I copy this there and move that, oops, and move this one down, it'll give me a better sense of the shape of this kind of core that'll come off of the, as it bends down. That should be pretty good. These are more of just a guideline. I think when it's done, there'll be a nice big surface there. And this might come down a little bit more. So this glass could potentially come way down in there under the cowl. Maybe not quite that low. But maybe I'll do some. Yeah, the sketch doesn't quite show it. It actually shows it pretty well coming into that glass, but I think I want more of a break. I think I'm going to go more based off the side view than this one. The angle of that's pretty much almost like one kind of curve through the hood and the glass, and this is definitely more of a break there. So I think I'll leave that like that. And then this will, oops, start to fan out like that. This will have to come in quite a bit more. There's definitely going to be a corner there. Not a hard break, but I think that glass will. There's got to be some trunk there, so this will probably get shortened back up. I think all of these will come to about there. This way I can get a better more gentle curve coming around this. These are definitely going to be a little more like that. It's not too bad. Sorry if I'm not narrating so much on this. I'm trying to concentrate on just kind of getting things in place. A lot of the movements are repetitive. Draw a line, move it, see how it looks in multiple views, spin it around. That's pretty much a typical workflow for any 3D design or 3D modeling. You're just trying to see how things look from different angles, and deciding on how much dimension you want to give things. Changing the tightness in corners, making things snap a little more, and that'll kind of help define the attitude of the design. Kind of figuring out where things land. Like there's probably going to have to be a section that is negative there. Actually, it could be pretty straight, but depending on how big this negative is, and then you'll probably want a little bit of lead in, some acceleration into this point here. That's kind of fine tuning things that'll be done later in surfacing, but it's good to start thinking about that stuff now because it'll determine where a lot of these points land. Like that. And even this curve, if that's the outer point of the glass, the curvature will be up somewhere like there if you were to draw a straight section through that. So this stuff might need to be a little more positive as well. Unless this is down here and the glass comes around and there's something else going on in this kind of triangle. But we could also start to pull that belt line in. It might actually be a little round now as well. Start to flatten that out. I think I want way more taper to it. So just to make this really wide through there, give it a really nice stance in the back. That's the canopy on this sketch is not the greatest. I can almost kind of disregard it, but I do want this to be the most prominent feature back there, so we can start pulling some of these points to that as well. Just to kind of help me visualize what that glass is going to do. So this might be another good place to put a section, just to make sure some of these lines or these curves are kind of doing what I want. See, it's a bit upright. And depending on this curvature, maybe I do want to bring that out a little bit more. This will be a fairly tight radius through there. I probably won't build a different colored A-pillar. It'll probably be all gloss black, and I'll have to determine kind of what kind of canopy shape I want. I think I'll pull this out a little bit there, and this can come up, which will kind of help the trajectory through this point here. And I'm just going to do another one back here, I think. This just kind of helps visualize the sections that you're going to get. Make sure that this point isn't higher than that one. Which I think that should do pretty well. Maybe this needs to come down just a tad. Also, this thickness over here is kind of throwing that off, making it look look like it's bigger than it is. So you want to sometimes have a good consistent line weight. So it might have been better to use the stroke tool, not the ink. But I think that's pretty good through there. That belt line's doing what I want. It's got a nice taper to that. I think we'll have enough room back here for a trunk to come into that kind of spoiler area. It might actually be quite a bit lower and then come up to it. I don't really have a design for the rear yet. I've kind of got some of these elements, so we'll see what that area is doing in a bit here. I kind of want this to be a little, that's going to taper as well. Oops. And that should come to that point. The side view, maybe a little bit flatter. This is a little higher. Maybe there's a little bit of an arc over that wheel well. Maybe that's a little more positive. That's not too bad. And I kind of want to leave this open, so you see a bit of the tire there. So I'll have to come up with what I want to do in here. This was just kind of a doodle in there. We'll see if that sticks. Okay. Not too bad. Yeah, I'm actually not digging this anymore. I kind of turn that into a rectangle and not the shape it really should be. I think it needs to be back a little further. That can come forward. I think that's a little better. Yeah, I'll have to live with that for now. All right, we're approaching about an hour. Thought I'd have more done. That's okay. You know, as you're, if you're designing while you're doing this, you could spend as much time on it as you want. I'm actually thinking that this fender needs to come up now. That's always a problem. You start to look at things from other angles and decide that, what you did once, you can go back and do it. You'll rework things 100 times and it'll probably never be perfect, but I think that's okay. I'm just looking at it in that view while I do some of this. But it feels too high there, right through this area. So I think I'll leave it like that and then pull that back up. So we'll see. Actually, if you hit the home button, it should make it 1-to-1. Or if you, well, yeah, it depends if you kind of had anything reference 1-to-1. That's pretty good for mine. I actually have some suspension stuff I imported I'm going to use later for the rear, so I think this is pretty close to 1-to-1. So now I can come and look at some of these parts at full size. Hey, that corner's not too bad. I think actually that lower could come out. Definitely feels wide, which is good. Okay, so I just spent just a minute cleaning up this front and kind of dialing in some of these curves here. So you'll notice a slight difference. I just didn't want to waste time doing that at the moment. So I think I'm going to continue with the body side here and kind of figure out what I want to do with that stuff up there. Okay, it is. I'm not entirely sure I like all of that and what exactly it's doing, um, but this will be a good time to kind of experiment with it, as well as I'm just going to continue down here. Let's make sure I'm on the right layer. You'll see I made this suspension on my NSX model, so I'm going to use that to kind of fill in this area here. I'm thinking it might be cool to have some exposed stuff, so I just have that in the file. I won't get to that right now. Right layer, and then this will probably continue. There'll be a pressure on uh, a curve back here that'll define the kind of back part of this vent there. It might come like that. I think that'll be okay for now. It might be completely horizontal, but that'll be this surface here when I build it, continuing back that way. And right now I'm just gonna continue this section here. I'm just doing a half right trigger to pull out some points, just so I can figure out what I want to do with this section there. I'm going to keep this relatively thin. I don't want to be too overpowering. This is just a section line to indicate what I want the surfaces to do there. So I'll just make sure that everything's intersecting. I think I'm going to add another point there just to establish a little break, and then another one here to establish a hard line there. And I think this will be a positive surface. Just turn down the weight just a little bit on that. Oops. And then this will be another hard break on that one. It'll probably have a little positive to it as well. So I'll have to kind of figure out what I want the surface to do in there, but I think I'll have a hard line that comes and might fade out, and then have this be a hard line there. And then I think I'll do something in like that. Let's redo these. Copy a couple more points and just bring that down. And I think there'll be another hard line through there. Maybe I'll just copy this guy up and pull this out. Establish the wide part of the rocker there. So I can edit this there and have that break under like that. Maybe this tucks under even more. Have a real nice roll under that. Tune down some of these lines a little. I think this might do something a little more simple in there. I'm not really digging that graphic I did, so I think I'll just do a break like that. That'll come somewhere like that. These will probably end somewhere and make a shape like that. We'll just simplify this surface quite a bit. And then that can come out there. And that can come to there as well. That's not too bad. I think it helps even out some of these lines there. All kind of have this trajectory towards the wheel there. That's not bad. And maybe I'll make that just a little bit lower. And sight down it, there's a small bump there. And then I think I'll just come around it like that. And this will be the start to the opening. Let's bring these points together. A little sharper. I'm just going to delete some of these points here just to establish that. Like that. Tone that down a little. And drag that somewhere like that.
So we're nearing the end of part 2 of this series. If you'd like to watch the rest, please move on to part 3. Thank you.